The call of home. For the Jamaican diaspora, it's more than just a memory, isn't it? More than some old tune you play.
Oh, absolutely. It's this really fundamental magnetic pull, a feeling, a kind of rhythm that, many people spend their whole adult lives planning to answer.
But that's the thing. What actually happens when that powerful dream, that yearning, meets let's be honest, the tough, complex reality of actually returning permanently?
Well, that's precisely our mission today, really. We're taking a deep dive into that exact journey, the journey of the returning resident.
So moving past the glossy tourist pictures and maybe the rose-tinted memories.
Exactly. We're looking at extensive accounts, real stories from people who've actually made the move. The goal is to equip you, the listener, with the unvarnished truth.
Okay. Separating that dream of paradise from the practical stuff, the bureaucracy.
Yeah.
And sometimes the painful parts, too.
That's it. So let's get into this central tension right away, because our sources, they paint this incredibly sharp contrast.
Between what? The first world life they left behind and Jamaica.
Pretty much. Specifically the UK in a lot of these stories. And the life waiting back home? The shifts in perspective for someone who's been away for, say, decades? It's startling.
Yeah, I read that. One retiree back in the UK after, 15 years away, described it as crumbling at the edges. That's quite a phrase.
It really is, and it resonates powerfully. They weren't just talking about, the economy slowing down. It felt deeper, an existential kind of decay.
Okay, so what'd that look like on the ground?
Well, they mentioned this invisible fog, not just, actual fog, but a kind of spiritual heaviness. And then the visible stuff, actual trash on the pavements.
Right.
Serious homelessness right outside these incredibly expensive luxury hotels. Infrastructure that feels, outdated, struggling.
And the service.
Often described as rushed, rude, just a general sense of malaise, It's a picture of a society that might be wealthy on paper, but feels fundamentally exhausted, tired.
Wow. Okay, so then you flip that. You look at Jamaica through the eyes of that same returning resident, and the description just changes completely, doesn't it?
Completely. It becomes about soul, about natural wealth. You hear about constant birdsong, clean mountain air.
That natural wellness aspect seems huge.
It really is. It's free for the taking in many ways. Sources talk specifically about how easy it is to get alkaline spring water, rich in minerals, just, spilling out of the hillsides in St. Mary.
Really? Just available?
Yeah, drive by with a container, fill it up, it's there.
And the food, I love that phrase. Food that finds you.
Isn't that beautiful? It's this sensory thing, like Julie mangoes just dropping perfectly ripe onto your path. Sweet ginnips almost begging to be picked off the branch.
Hecky pods bursting open.
Exactly, right in your yard. This isn't just about, it's a tropical climate. It's a fundamental difference in how life's basics are sourced, how they're valued. It's abundance from the earth, not from some supermarket chain.
Now, a lot of this perspective, this critical lens, seems channeled through the work of Dean Jones, founder of Jamaica Homes.
Yes, he's become a really key figure. An advocate, a guide for the returning diaspora. He made the move himself from the UK.
So he has that personal experience.
Definitely. And his insights really set the tone for thinking about quality of life beyond just money.
He challenges those traditional success metrics, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He really does. He grounds the whole conversation in this philosophical critique. He's got that famous quote, "Progress isn't always measured by speed or skyline." Right, remember that?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the sound of rain on a zinc roof.
The scent of ackee boiling on a Sunday morning and the joy of walking barefoot on sacred soil. It's powerful stuff.
It really makes you think.
He challenges us to look beyond just GDP figures, to ask, what are we actually gaining or maybe losing by chasing those Western definitions of prosperity?
So for you, the listener, maybe considering this huge move, our goal today is to be comprehensive, really cover all the bases.
That's the plan. We'll cover the formal government requirements, the unavoidable social complexities that can really challenge that dream.
And the emotional preparation needed. Because you want this return to be a success, right? Not a source of regret.
Absolutely. We're moving past the postcard image and getting into the reality of the community, the bureaucracy, the whole picture.
Okay, let's really lean into that idea you mentioned earlier. Culture shock in reverse.
Yeah, it's a fascinating concept. When someone has actually settled back in Jamaica, found that new normal, maybe slower, sunnier, more community-focused, and then they go back to the UK for a visit after maybe a decade or more.
The shock hits them then, seeing the place they left.
Exactly. The shock of the decline they perceive, it can be really significant.
And it's not just a feeling, right? They point to specific things.
Oh, very specific. Physical decay that seems to signal something deeper, a kind of societal fatigue. They notice things like chewing gum just splattered all over the pavements, like no one cares anymore.
Little things that add up.
Yeah. Escalators in huge London stations just constantly out of service. Even small stuff, like wheels missing off luggage trolleys at Heathrow. It feels like a kind of collective failure to maintain things.
Like the system is just creaking.
Precisely. But the observation that really hit home for me was about the people, the existential fatigue.
What did they mean by that?
The source described people in the UK as just tired. And not just, physically tired from working hard, but deeply fundamentally worn out, struggling to find happiness under all that pressure, and maybe, often, loneliness.
And that's where the Jamaica comparison comes in again, with wellness.
Right. The contrast is immediate, often medically significant too. In the UK, the observation is vitamin D comes in a bottle. It's a supplement you buy because, well, the sun is scarce, it's gray for months.
Yeah, that lack of light can be tough.
But in Jamaica, it comes through your pores. Salt water, sunshine, just being outdoors more. It's treated like a natural medicine cabinet. We hear accounts from returnees about chronic skin conditions improving, moods lifting dramatically.
Just from the environment.
Just from existing in that natural light and heat. Wellness isn't some scheduled activity you have to pay for. It's almost a byproduct of the climate itself.
That leads directly to this idea of the speed of life versus the pace of living.
Yes, and this distinction is absolutely crucial for anyone thinking of returning to understand. The UK, the US, they're characterized by constant, rapid motion. Tap your card, scan the code, rush, rush, rush to the next thing.
But is it productive rushing?
Well, the observer noted this deep irony, all this speed, but does anyone really know where they're rushing to? Or why? It can feel like motion without real meaning.
Efficiency over humanity, maybe?
Perhaps. Whereas Jamaica generally operates at a slower, maybe saner pace of living. Time isn't always about money. Often it's about community.
Making space for connection.
Exactly. Life stretches out a bit, makes room for just connecting. Playing dominoes down by the shop, having a proper chat with your neighbor, the fruit vendor, knowing your kid's favorite snack.
Life is something you experience, not just schedule.
You experience it fully, yeah. Not just something squeezed in between transactions.
And this difference in pace, it directly informs Dean Jones's challenge to how we define national success.
Yeah.
Right? Spot on. He asked that really provocative question. What if development wasn't measured by gross domestic product? Or, how big the latest skyscraper is? But by what instead?
By gross well-being of life.
Wow. That is a massive paradigm shift. But if you actually measure things that way.
Think about it. If you measure well-being by access to clean air, readily available fresh water, the ability to grow some of your own food, strong, supportive village values.
Then Jamaica starts looking like it's leading, not lagging.
Suddenly, yeah. On those global metrics, it puts human thriving ahead of pure market efficiency.
But the challenge, as you mentioned, is how durable is that well-being when you face the practical day-to-day stuff? Inconsistent services, maybe? Bad roads?
That's the trade-off, isn't it? The sources suggest that for many, the profound peace you get from that clean air, that cultural connection, it often outweighs the daily frustrations.
So you swap one set of problems for another.
Essentially, yes. You might swap the sort of anxiety and loneliness of the first world rat race for, well, physical inconveniences and maybe some bureaucratic headaches in Jamaica.
It's about choosing which complexities you prefer to live with.
Exactly. And Dean Jones frames that value proposition so powerfully with that quote about not needing a skyscraper to stand tall.
Sometimes all you need is a good mango, a strong breeze, and people who call your name with meaning.
Right, and that's not just romantic talk. It's a direct critique of those Western metrics that prioritize endless consumption over genuine wholeness, spiritual health.
Okay, so we need to talk about the history here, because that drive to return doesn't come from nowhere, does it?
Not at all. You absolutely cannot understand the dream of homecoming without understanding its historical roots. It's deeply embedded in the Windrush legacy.
The pioneers who came to Britain, mainly between 1948 and 1971, to help rebuild after the war.
Precisely. They arrived with incredible skills, ambition, culture, and were often met with, well, systemic rejection, racism.
Those infamous no blacks, no dogs, no Irish signs.
Exactly. Memorialized the hostility. They took the toughest jobs, hospitals, buses, factories, and still face that discrimination daily. But their resilience, it was just incredible.
How did they manage? Financially? culturally?
Their whole financial structure was often built around self-reliance, community support, and always that dream of return. They formed savings groups, partners,
Right, the rotating savings clubs. Essential.
absolutely essential for community financing. They supported each other's small businesses and crucially sent huge amounts of money back home as remittances.
And that money wasn't just for family support, was it?
No, often it was explicitly intended to build the very homes they hoped to retire to one day, planting the seeds for their return.
The sources share some really moving personal stories about the weight of that sacrifice. That anecdote about Brother Lawrence and his wife.
In Stoke Newington, yeah. A Jamaican man married to a white British woman at a time when that could incite real violence.
They faced terrible things, didn't they? Bottles through windows, constant abuse.
Physical threats. The point of sharing stories like that is to show that their acts of love, their resilience, their sheer survival, that was the foundation. The dream of return wasn't just about retirement. It felt like the ultimate vindication of everything they'd endured.
But then, the hard truth hits. When the children or grandchildren of that generation finally make the move, step onto that sacred soil.
Yeah. This is where the dream can collide sharply with reality. They often struggle with a local mindset that's dramatically different from the nostalgic image they held. That image of a completely unified, welcoming paradise.
The illusion starts to break down. The sources talk about this powerful psychology of you have it already.
That's a key concept. Locals look at a return as someone coming from foreign, maybe with a different accent, looking generally healthier, having some possessions, that all-important foreign passport.
And they immediately assume wealth, privilege.
Instantly. They place them in this category of immense privilege. And that happens almost regardless of the returnee's actual financial situation, which might just be a modest pension they worked decades for.
There's no context for the struggle behind it.
None. It's like the decades of hard work in the cold, the racism they face, the loneliness. It's all invisible. All the local community often sees is the foreign currency, the perceived ease of life up there.
And that perception, combined with what the sources call the economics of desperation, that can change interactions, can't it?
Profoundly. It means kindness can sometimes turn very, very transactional. We heard heartbreaking stories, returnees feeling deeply betrayed.
Like lending money to family?
Yeah. Lending a significant sum to a cousin, say for a business idea, only to find the cousin doesn't really see it as a loan to be repaid. More like a justifiable redistribution of wealth.
Wow, what's the justification? The underlying thinking can be brutally honest. You can always make more back in England or America. We can't. It's framed as a necessary hustle, not really a betrayal, because the returnee is seen as having infinite resources.
Infinitely resilient, yeah. Able to just recoup the loss abroad. It's this difficult collision of poverty, desperation, and that perception of limitless foreign wealth. You need profound emotional preparation to handle that without becoming totally cynical.
So the returnee ends up in this kind of painful cultural limbo.
Often, yes. No longer fully Jamaican in the local sense they've been shaped by their time away, but not fully British or American anymore either. They become this sort of magnet for expectations and sometimes, sadly, exploitation.
And this warning extends really strongly into real estate, doesn't it? Which is often the biggest investment they make.
Fiercely. The sources warn constantly about sharks who swim in clear water, deals changing overnight, even friends or family potentially selling land right out from under you.
So vigilance is key. Absolutely. It's a necessary caution. Loving your country doesn't mean abandoning logic and self-protection. The advice is simple and crucial. Work only with licensed agents. People like Dean Jones and his team at Jamaica Homes are vital here, and accredited attorneys. Never hand over cash without proper paperwork.
Never. Formal, notarized documentation for everything. Protect yourself.
Okay, let's switch gears completely now. From the emotional landscape to the nuts and bolts, the official pathway, where the bureaucracy really kicks in.
Right. We need to clearly define this returning resident status according to the Jamaica Customs Agency, the official rules.
What are the main criteria?
Okay, they're very specific. You have to be a Jamaican national, 18 or older, and critically, you must have lived overseas continuously for the last 3 years, and you have to state your intention is to return permanently.
Are there different categories?
Yes, they account for different situations. Students who've been abroad for maybe 1 to 3 years, non-Jamaican spouses returning with their Jamaican partner, even deportees if they lived abroad for 3 or more years.
And what about couples returning together?
They're treated as one single family unit for concessions, helps with planning.
Okay, so the main benefit, the incentive here is the duty concession, right? To help bring your stuff back.
That's the idea. It's meant to ease the transition. It allows a duty-free allowance on reasonable quantities of used household effects.
Used items. What about electronics?
You're allowed one of each from a select list, new or used. Things like a TV, a personal computer, a printer, maybe a video recorder, a component stereo set.
Okay. But this is where the friction starts, isn't it? The
And
limitations.
this is where it gets really tough, yeah. And where that institutional disconnect feels so stark. First off, this concession, it applies only once in your entire lifetime.
Once ever.
Once ever. And you have to claim it within 6 months of getting your approval status.
That seems restrictive.
It is. And advocates like Dean Jones, who are really championing returnees' rights through platforms like Jamaica Homes, they argue this whole personal effects list feels like it's 50 years old. It's just dated.
It doesn't reflect what a modern family actually owns or needs after decades abroad.
Not really, no. It feels out of touch with the reality of relocating your entire life. But the biggest point of pain, the one we hear about constantly, it's vehicles.
Ah, yes. Cars are excluded.
Completely excluded from the duty-free concession. You have to pay full duties and taxes on any vehicle you bring in.
Now, those duties are high.
Often cripplingly high. We're talking 40% or even more of the assessed market value of the car. Plus, the car itself generally has to be less than 10 years old.
But for someone who's been abroad 20, 30 years, their car might be older, but reliable, paid off.
Yeah.
Essential for them.
Exactly. They see it as crucial for their security, their mobility back home, especially since reliable public transport isn't everywhere on the island. You need a car for basic things, getting to the doctor, maybe running a small business, just functioning.
So paying potentially tens of thousands of dollars in duty on your own used car feels punitive.
It feels deeply punitive, especially when it's not some luxury item. It's a necessary tool for resettlement. And remember, these returning residents are bringing huge economic value.
The remittances point.
Yeah, remittances alone make up a massive chunk of Jamaica's GDP. Estimates range from 10 to maybe even 20%. Huge numbers. Yet when these same people try to physically bring their lives and assets back,
They get hit hard at customs.
they get, in the words often used by advocates, crucified at customs. It feels like a penalty for coming home.
Especially when you look elsewhere in the Caribbean.
Well, that comparison is often made. You hear about places like Barbados or St. Lucia maybe rolling out the red carpet more, offering better incentives to attract this exact diaspora capital and talent.
Whereas Jamaica's welcome at the official level can feel cold, taxing.
It can feel that way, yeah. The current system can seem to treat the returning resident less like a vital asset to be welcomed and supported, and more like just another transaction to be taxed. It erodes goodwill right at the start.
So the advocacy for people like Dean Jones and Jamaica Homes is pushing for structural change, for the government to recognize this value.
Absolutely. They're arguing that the government can and really should do more. Update these dated policies, make the process smoother, actively help returning residents succeed, because the current bureaucratic burden is just immense.
How immense? What kind of paperwork are we talking about?
Okay, get ready. You need your valid passport, obviously, your TRN taxpayer registration number, proof of a local Jamaican address, a validated bill of lading for your shipment.
Standard enough, maybe?
But then the proof of foreign residency, this is where it gets intense. They usually require your last 3 years of official tax returns.
3 years. Like W-2s, P-60s.
Exactly. W-2s or 1099s from the U.S.,
Sure.
T-4s from Canada, P-60s from the U.K., plus often separation letters from your former employer or retirement papers, pension advice slips.
Wow, that's a serious level of documentation.
It's a level of scrutiny that feels more like an audit than a welcome mat. It demands incredible foresight, meticulous record-keeping, possibly across different international tax systems.
It really underscores the point, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Returning home is this huge emotional, spiritual thing.
But the government system often views it primarily as a regulatory event, a process to be managed and checked very carefully.
Okay, so let's say you navigate all that. The emotional hurdles, the history, the bureaucracy. What's next? Finding where to actually live.
Yes, the next massive decision. Because Jamaica has incredible diversity in terms of locations, climates, lifestyles. Choosing the wrong spot can really sour the whole experience.
So what are the popular spots? What do the sources say?
Well, a few key areas consistently come up, each offering something different. Let's start with Mandeville.
High up, cool climate.
Exactly. It's known for being noticeably cooler than the coast, which is a huge plus for many. It offers generally peaceful neighborhoods, essential services, even community colleges. Great for tranquility.
And affordability.
Generally more affordable, yeah. Housing, maybe renting a house, could be in the range of 500 to 800 US dollars a month. Though, it's fair to note, sources do mention occasional, sometimes temporary, spikes in crime, so you still need to research specific areas carefully.
More for community than nightlife, perhaps.
Right. Definitely seems that way. Now, contrast that sharply with Montego Bay, Mo Bay.
Okay, totally different vibe. City feel, beaches, airport.
All of that. Much more vibrant, active, obvious convenience with the international airport right there. But that vibrancy, that convenience, comes at a much higher cost.
How much higher?
Well, basic living might start around $1,500 US a month, but realistically, to maintain a comfortable lifestyle similar to what someone might be used to abroad, it could easily run up to $4,000 US a month, or even more.
Wow, $4,000 a month. That's comparable to living in some major Western cities.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of defeats the purpose of seeking lower costs, doesn't it?
It can seem that way. The trade-off is the convenience, yes, but also familiarity. Mobay has more of the consumer amenities, the restaurants, the shopping diversity that maybe someone from the diaspora is used to. So you trade some economic relief for that familiarity and pace.
Okay. What about the other end of the spectrum? More natural, quieter.
That would be Portland. Known for its incredible lush beauty, heavy rainfall, very green, and profound quiet.
So ideal for retirement if peace is the absolute priority. Perfect for that. Cool weather, too, generally. But the trade-off is clear. Fewer amenities, not much nightlife, and potentially longer drives to get to specialized services or major towns. And Kingston, what about near the capital?
The Kingston Hills are popular. Areas like Stony Hill, Jacks Hill, they offer more of a suburban feel, often with cleaner air than down in the city basin. Stunning views sometimes.
And the advantage there is proximity.
Crucially, yes, excellent proximity to all the urban amenities of Kingston, and very importantly, good access to private healthcare facilities. It's about balancing city access with a slightly removed, maybe calmer living environment.
Let's talk overall cost of living then, beyond just housing.
Okay. Housing, as we said, varies hugely, but general utilities, electricity, water, internet can be surprisingly manageable, maybe averaging 100 to 200 US a month, depending on usage, obviously.
And food.
Highly variable. Could be $300 to $500 US a month, maybe more. Really depends on how much you can tap into local produce directly versus relying on more expensive imported goods in the supermarkets.
Healthcare is a big one, especially for retirees.
Massive factor. The public system, well, it's free at the point of service, but it's notoriously overwhelmed. Long waits, sometimes inconsistent service quality.
So private healthcare is the way to go for most returnees.
Often, yes, if they can afford it. And compared to U.S. costs, private healthcare in Jamaica is surprisingly affordable and can offer excellent quality, but you generally need to be near Kingston or Mobay for the best facilities and specialists.
So planning your location around healthcare access is vital.
Absolutely essential, especially if you're managing any chronic health conditions.
Okay, so pulling all this practical advice together, what's the #1 tip for a smoother transition? It comes up again and again from successful returnees. Test living. Do not buy property immediately based on a holiday visit or nostalgia. Rent first.
Definitely rent first. Or even better, stay in Airbnbs in different parishes. Spend at least a couple of weeks in each place you're considering. Really try to feel the rhythm, understand the local nuances, the pros and cons, before you make a huge financial commitment.
And mindset is key too, right?
Just as important as the money, maybe more so. You have to consciously embrace the local culture. Be prepared for that slower pace. Things might not happen exactly when promised, except that occasional service challenges are just part of the reality.
And finances. Having a safety net.
Crucial. Plan your finances carefully. Ideally, have a steady external income source like a pension or remote work. And perhaps trickiest of all, learn to be wisely generous. Navigate those complex social expectations around money without becoming a victim of exploitation. It's a delicate balance.
Okay, let's bring this all together. Thinking about the bigger picture, the why. Why are so many people willing to navigate all these challenges, the bureaucracy, the costs, the social complexities, to leave the supposed security of the first world?
Dean Jones actually laid out 5 personal reasons for his own return to Jamaica, and they really seem to capture these wider, almost universal desires bubbling up in the diaspora.
What were they? The first was the weather.
Yes, but not just wanting sunshine. It was escaping the monotony and fatigue caused by months and months of gray, dark days in the UK. That constant lack of light has a profound impact on mood, on energy. It's a real quality of life cost that's hard to quantify until you escape it.
Makes sense. What was the second reason?
Wanting a better environment to raise children, he specifically contrasted what he saw as an increasingly hypersexualized, disrespectful society in the UK with Jamaica's perhaps fading, but still present emphasis on manners, on discipline.
That traditional respect? Yes, miss. Good afternoon, sir.
Exactly. That strong cultural ethos. There's a desire for that kind of traditional foundation to help anchor kids.
Okay, third reason. This one's critical. The decline of the Afro-Caribbean community infrastructure back in the UK. The Windrush Generation built these vibrant hubs, think Brixton, Handsworth, Harlesden, community centers, churches, businesses.
All of it. But with gentrification, generational shifts, many of these centers are closing or shrinking. It leads to fragmentation, isolation, a feeling, as he put it, of being a kind of nomad in the very land where they'd spent most of their lives.
Losing that sense of community anchor. Fourth reason.
Food. Simple as that, but profound. He described UK food as often processed, overpriced, and unrecognizable compared to what his mother used to cook. And he linked that directly to health costs, rising diabetes, heart disease in the diaspora.
Whereas in Jamaica,
You have immediate access to fresh, natural food. Ackee, yam, kalaloo, fresh fish off the boat, nourishment that simply wasn't easily available or affordable in the UK supermarket aisles, a return to real food.
and the fifth reason. This one sounds painful.
It is. It was about race and respect. Specifically, watching the UK seemingly walk back hard-won anti-racism progress, the ever-present weight of racial inequality.
And the Windrush scandal must have hit hard.
Immensely. Seeing legal residents, people who'd lived and worked in the UK for decades, wrongly detained, threatened with deportation, actually deported. It confirmed for many that those colonial hangovers still linger, that their sense of belonging in Britain was, and maybe always will be, conditional.
The psychological burden of that, constantly feeling conditional.
It's immense. That constant low-level vigilance takes a toll.
So despite all the challenges of returning, the ultimate payoff people talk about is what?
Freedom, peace, that deep cultural connection, feeling more outgoing somehow, happier, genuinely healthier, physically and mentally. It seems they weren't just running from the difficulties in the UK or US, they were running towards something better.
Even if that better is raw, challenging.
Exactly. Raw, challenging, yes, but also profoundly rewarding and authentically theirs, a place where they feel they truly belong, despite the imperfections.
So we've detailed the emotional journey, the practical logistics, the historical weight. It's absolutely clear that the diaspora brings tremendous value back, economic capital through remittances and investment, cultural capital, skills.
Undeniably. Whether it's money sent home or people physically returning with their savings, their pensions, their expertise to build homes, start businesses.
Which really frames the challenge for the future, doesn't it? It's not just about the diaspora needing to accept Jamaica's reality, warts and all.
No, the other side of the coin is crucial. Jamaica's institutions, customs, the trade board, various government offices need to adapt. They need to actively recognize and value this incredible investment that's flowing back to the island.
Because based on the struggles we've discussed, the bureaucracy, the feeling of being exploited sometimes, especially with things like that dated customs list and the vehicle duties.
It raises a really necessary and, I think, crucial question for Jamaica's own development strategy.
Which is
What tangible mechanisms, going beyond the current, frankly, inadequate concessions, could the Jamaican government actually implement? How can they actively protect, value, and genuinely facilitate the success of these returning residents?
so it feels less like an ordeal and more like a welcome.
Exactly. How do you shift that fundamental relationship from one that feels transactional, based on suspicion and taxation, to one of strategic partnership? One of genuine welcome and investment in their success, which ultimately benefits the whole island.
That is the core challenge, isn't it? Something vital for you, the listener, to think about whether you're considering the move yourself or just interested in the future of Jamaica and its diaspora.
Absolutely. A critical question for the years ahead. Thank you for diving deep with us today on this.